Greetings, and today I have another deck video for you guys. So today's deck video presents one card that hasn't really been seen much play for a long time now, and it's Shupe. So I thought I'd try and create a deck based around Shupe, and I'm not gonna lie, it was not easy. Just because Shupe's, I don't know if Shupe's can change that you can actually choose whatever ability you want, or if it's still kind of random. I have not really been following the mechanics of Shupe for a very long time. So Shupe I don't think it's really changed in terms of its effects, but I tried to build a deck sort of around him, and the most versatile faction that I know that comes the closest to pulling that off is scoia'tael. Now, Shupe is not a cheap card at all. In fact, it's actually pretty up there in terms of, being expensive and such. So I went ahead and attempted to make a deck that can sort of work with Shupe. And this is sort of the best I got. My apologies for sort of a dull voice. It's for strange, this deck I would try to make, but hopefully it'll work. So you can tell that my top, almost around my top 10, I think top 9, how many cards are here? 3, 6, top 7 cards are super expensive, and the rest of the deck is just complete on the lower side of the provisions cost. So obviously, starting off with Shupe Stay Off, I tried to find a deck that's versatile enough to make this deck, and I'm trying it with Ethna just because she just gives you a lot of provision, so hopefully your deck can sort of make up for that. Going down the list, I decided to add in the popular Novigradian Justice. Serves as sort of a scoia'tael version of Royal Decree. Now, having these two together might be a bit redundant, so I'm probably thinking of taking one of these cards out and maybe adding in a different card to sort of add to the versatility of the scoia'tael faction. So yeah. And I might choose to keep Novigradian Justice just to get that extra dwarf, which would be good for that control. In fact, what I could do is I could turn Royal Decree into the Great Oak. I was wanting to add the perhaps a half-elf hunter to establish that control onto that row. Anyway, so that's stuff I gotta think about. That's just the thing about how versatile this faction can be, is you really don't. The possibilities for combinations is actually pretty great with this deck. Other decks have sort of their identity. Like, for example, you got the the Syndicate faction, which has coins, which has prime cards, all these cards that support that mechanic. You got the Northern Realms, which seems to be more to the orders and charges and all that stuff. Monsters is more, Death Wish seems to be most prominent in there. You have a bit of Consume. Obviously, Consume will always be a monster. Unique to monsters only. And scoia'tael's got all of these sort of races. And I think the fact that those races could work together via support cards is why I chose scoia'tael to make a Shupe deck based off of. Anyway, let's move on. Royal Decree, again, could be changed, could be not. Really, arguably, any of these cards can be moved. Just because you can make any sort of combo. So obviously this is not the final deck. When I upload the gameplay video on Sunday, it's gonna go out on Saturday, then it could be a completely different deck, so we'll see. Barnabas, I should say, is one of those cards where I said it's gonna be great for that diversity, being able to boost an elf, dwarf, and dryad by 2, because you can't really run race specific decks with a deck like this, especially since you can only have one copy of each. Otherwise, it's not going to work for Shupe. So that's why Barnabas is great here. Roach, again, deck thin. I think that's why I had these two, because of deck thin, but I feel like Royal Decree might be making it a little bit too expensive. So that's why I'm going to make a bit of change in terms of that. Going down the line, Milaene's always been a support, a good reliable source of sort of tallish removal. So being able to damage a unit by 4 is always a good source of, being able to remove sort of the core engines from your opponent's field, or you can always do the spread damage, which is also great. Going on the line, we have Ida. Obviously, she doesn't boost units up anymore. She now just gives vitality for 4 turns, which isn't too bad. Because it could create sort of a target on their back if they choose not to do anything about it, and at the same time it can also purify units, so anything that gets locked could be unlocked, anyone poisoned could get unpoisoned. You get the deal. Moren there is that locking mechanic, so any engines that maybe don't want to be activated, probably Moren. I noticed that the Northern Realms is getting a lot of Anna Strenger gameplay ever since her boost from the update 3.1, I believe. So Moren is good to lock her. Train Boar is a pretty good card, sort of on its own. Like, this card doesn't need any support. It's just really strong on its own because the fact that it can be healed and it can damage an enemy unit by 2 semi-progressively, because it can only be done any other turn. And not to mention that it's a 5 power card. It's already pretty powerful. So if you're going to remove Treant Boar, you must be able to do it with a really tall removal card. Like Elzer's Thunder is the first thing that comes in my head. Obviously, Milene won't do it because she can only do it by 4. Milva is a really strong scoia'tael card. I suggest having this card in almost any scoia'tael deck just because of her progressive boosting with any scoia'tael unit that comes out. And as you can tell, obviously these are all scoia'tael units except for the Hawker. Oh no, the Hawker Smuggler is also scoia'tael. What am I saying? Prince Willem is there again. It's that deck thin. I just really like deck thin. Not to mention, I have a lot of bronze cards here that don't really support each other in a way. I mean, we got Dried. Actually, you know what? Let me look for cards with Harmony. I feel like Harmony is a really good, what do you call it? I would like to put Cirsa, but nah, it's okay. Yeah, I'm saying, like I was saying, Harmony is a pretty good, deck. Sorry, not deck. Well, I'm trying to make a point here. Harmony is a good keyword to have in decks like this, where you have race diversity, which works well with Shupe, which is why I wanted to do it. Now I just realized I don't have the Water Broccolon. I might actually just add this to sort of the final copy. So get rid of World Decree, put in the Water Broccolon, and just downgrade one of these, other cards. I know I'm already sort of low on provisions as it is, but you know what? What's gotta be done, it's gotta be done, right? So anyway, we'll have the Hawker Smuggler, which this could be the card I end up downgrading just because I don't think it's gonna serve much purpose in terms of help. But the fact that it can still boost allies in your hand is still pretty good, and this is gonna become a high priority target. The Marana Runestone is here just sort of as a filler, to get you those extra cards that could support you. You can get that extra dwarf maybe for the Dwarven Mercenary, all that stuff. But, again, it's very limited. I did decide to add an Alzur's Thunder in here just because of the removal. That's actually very sought after now, I noticed. So I'm seeing more Alzur's Thunder's gameplay has gone up quite a bit. So I'm seeing more Alzur's Thunder in games. Which is great because now it's actually pretty useful. Whereas before, I don't think not too many people used it. Before the update 3.1, I can't remember. And all of these are sort of just filler cards. I mean, just let's go through them. Mahakam Defender could be benefited from Hawker Smuggler. Could also be benefited by any cards here that can boost. For example, the Vryhead Officer, the Dryad Matron, I already said Vryhead Officer. Jeez, my English is really bad today. My apologies. And also from Ida, so this card has some support. Dolbatana Archer, again, it's just there for that damage, really. Not to mention, it's pretty powerful because it's a 5 provision for essentially a 6 power card, so that's great. Dryad Matron, if not dealt with, can do some progressive boosting, which is also pretty great. Can help work with any other cards. We got the Dolbatana Bowman. I think this deals a maximum of 3 damage because it's 4 rows total, and if you put it on the very ranged row and you damage an opponent on their ranged row, then it's going to deal 3 damage. So that's a 5 provision cost for a 6 power card, which is pretty good still. And that's some decent removal. I decided to put Panther. I mean, I didn't know what else to really add. Because if I can find a replacement for... I mean, I would do it for Mahakam Marauder, but I think he's better if he's boosted. What I could do actually is I could do the Hawker Healer. Just simply because of its ability to either boost or heal. But I'm doing this just so I can add that Water Broccolon. But we'll see. we'll see what happens. I might actually change it. No, I think I already have a scoia'tael neophyte. No, I do not. Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Let's just continue going down. Elven Swords Masters, that's that engine card that does a progressive damage. Obviously, when you play an elf, the cooldown does get decreased, but the chances of that happening won't happen too often just because of the race diversity of our cards that were necessary to sort of make this deck. Dried Fledgling has that harmony keyword, which is going to be pretty key in a diverse deck like this, so it'd be pretty great. Riot Officer, again, good for that support, good for keeping units on the field a bit longer if they need to stay on, like for example that Elven Swordmaster, the Dwarven Mercenary, etc. Probably even the Treant Boar itself. And the Dwarven Skirmisher, I feel like it's always been a sort of reliable card because damaging an enemy unit by 3 is still pretty big, even though damage on cards, on unit cards, isn't gonna kill units as much as special cards would, but you know. Yeah, so this is sort of that deck list for Shupe. Now, again, sort of I'm saying, I honestly just used Ethne just because of her high provision addition. In terms of her ability, there's really no support. I think there was the other problem is I don't remember enough scoia'tael cards or enough Gwent cards at all to sort of memorize their name, their picture, their ability, and I really should. So that's my bad. I might want to start working on that a little bit more myself. So this is sort of the initial deck list for Shupe. Obviously, this deck can be improved like tenfold, so it can be improved to be better like 10 times worth. So if you guys have any suggestions on how to improve this deck maybe, or a different kind of deck that you guys would like me to showcase, do let me know in the comment section below. Again, I just thought of Shupe and I was like, okay, maybe it's time I try to recreate a Shupe deck, and I'm telling you, it's not easy. Like, it was not easy to make this deck, and right now I'm still having second thoughts on like half the cards that are on here. So I do have a lot of thinking to do. This is sort of just the initial breakdown of sort of how Shupe is gonna work and why I chose the faction, why I chose the leader, why I chose the cards, etc., which is what most of these sort of deck list analysis videos are all about. If you guys are enjoying these, please leave a like. And we told you to comment, all that stuff, and subscribe for more Gwent videos. And this video should be coming out tomorrow, and we got gameplay coming out on Sunday. So subscribe, you guys get to see those. And other than that, this is Enzo signing out. I'll catch you guys in the next one.